I did a lot of drawing of military airplanes with pencil. They were pretty messy drawings, smudged. Uh, and I was always very influenced by comic books because it took me a while to get started really reading books independently. So I'd rather be read to. But by looking at the pictures, I could follow the stories in a comic book. And I also had some wonderful illustrated books of pirates of the Howard Pyle. I mean, terrific pictures of the pirate Long John Silver and people like that, and who were off the coast of Tripoli, of the coast of Libya, and the and in the tropics, in the, some of the around the Floridas. Pirates were all over the place. And one of my favorite books as a child was of this book about animals who lived in a huge hollow tree. And the time I really got reading on my own, when my mothers would try to encourage me to read and not depend on her to read to me, was Robin Hood. And then I got the Hardy Boy series, and I read all of those. And I think I actually got to read pretty fast at that point. Um, I had to read about 10 books a week as a Harvard undergraduate for my courses. I was majored in philosophy. I Last year I read 5,000 pages. I read Henry Kissinger's 888-page book, and I read the memoirs of Dean Acheson, which is about his being present when the State Department was created and became Secretary of State. That was called President at the Creation. Very interesting book. And so with the Kissinger book called Diplomacy, it was really a complete course in those two books, the Acheson, which was written by the James Chase, the one of Nicholas's most brilliant teachers at Bard College, who died in Paris when he was about 72 years old, working on a biography of Lafayette, and he was a terrific biographer in the Acheson case. And then I read a bunch of books. I read a book by Chernoff about Alexander Hamilton, and including his duel with the infamous Aaron Burr, and we had stayed, Pat and I and Nicholas, on the island of Nevis, where Alexander Hamilton was born. And in the recent years, I've read biographies by David McCullough, John Adams, Harry Truman, a book called The Tragedy of Great Power Politics, about hegemonies and power politics by Mearsheimer, who's a half German, half Irish professor of political science at the University of Chicago. And it was a terrific book. I got it on Kindle, and trouble with Kindle for me is that once you've read it, you can't get it again easily. And I like to reread passages of books. I mean, if I really try to master a subject by rereading while I'm reading it, not after I've read it so much. But if I have really understanding something, I'll read it 2 or 3 times before I let go of it and read to the end of the book. Marisamma's book is terrific. I recommend it highly. It's on Amazon. Amazon has it, and for Kindle. And I see, who have I been reading recently? I'm writing something called David's Dream of the Last Judgment. It's about the council on high in heaven deciding that they will not try to manipulate through miraculous means the NASA, and if a comet is sighted sure to collide with the planet Earth, they will not do anything to intervene with NASA and get NASA to vote, allocate to get allocations from a vote in the Congress, so that NASA could try to reconnoiter in space with the comet, using its jets to set it off its course so that it will not collide with the USA. The gods and the saints in heaven in this council on high, which I, as David, descendant of one of the descendants of King David and Abraham, as a Jewish person, Redmond, where the Redmonds were Jewish. So I am David Landreth van Vactor, or Van de Vescht, of the river, from the river Vescht. We're from Van Vechten, which was a little town on the Vescht River, a little bit inland, a village, which was supposed to be very ancient and absolutely beautiful. We were back there, not too far from it, in Orne, where my ancestors came from 400 years ago in 1632, and arrived in Albany, New York, 3 brothers, Metzler, Antoinus, and Cornelius van Vechten. And my lineage, I'm going to write a letter to Queen Elizabeth and talk about our distant relationship to Her Majesty and to the new Prince George, Prince Charles, Prince William, Duke of Cambridge, and the new prince, the little boy, son of Prince William and his beautiful wife, the Duchess of Cambridge, Kate Middleton, first name, and her maiden name is Middleton. And I'm very proud of being through the Lewis family, whose other relations in Virginia, where the Lewis family, Sir Edward Lewis arriving there in about 1755, Albemarle County, Virginia, not far from Charlottesville, and living in Belmead, and in a plantation house that is, became the country club house of the golf course, the country club in Charlottesville. Um, the Sir Edward Lewis's family was related to Robert E. Lee, the grandmother of George Washington. Meriwether Lewis was a cousin. Three of the Lewis cousins married first cousins 3 generations in a row, before they moved away from Virginia to St. Louis. And Thomas Jefferson urging them when they no longer were given commissions as either majors or colonels in charge of militias in Virginia, that he urged all of them to go to the university. He believed that it wasn't enough to be a planter or an aristocrat, or relationship to the royal family of England. This particular family that went back sent their daughter Mildred, or by the name of Porteous, and she married an earl who was one of the Bose-Lyons family, which makes me have a direct connection to the Queen Mother of Queen Elizabeth and Prince Charles, their grandmother, Prince Charles. Called the Queen Mum, who lived to about 95 years old. And apparently she put some of their relatives in mental hospitals because they were a little bit, some of them, it was what you call overbreeding, and not good genetically to have too much of the same genes of first cousins. And I mean, it's really incestuous. But the reason they did that is that in that Virginia society around Charlottesville, Virginia, there just weren't that many people during that period who were candidates for marriage, and they of course spent a lot of time with the same families in their plantation houses, and that's as much as I have to say about my background. I just wanted to say the way I got started painting was really in a way through drawing. I had some art classes at Tyson Junior High School, not very good. But at Lawrenceville, we had a much better art department, and I did some painting there. Dudley Morris was the teacher who was an excellent painter of the New Hope School, New Hope, New Jersey. He painted in egg tempera on masonite panels, which he would cover on the rough side with a probably a kind of white putty like gesso or something like that, and then he probably used several grades from rough to fine sandpaper to get a nice surface and get off the rough part and the chalky stuff, and then he used egg tempera, and he's a terrific, very realistic painter of that New Hope School. Terrific painter. I was president of the art club, and he and his wife, who was a very exotic looking woman, at their house in Princeton, would have the whole art club over to steak dinners with great salads and dessert, which is a luxury. I mean, to have that kind of attention and hospitality from Lawrenceville masters. Another set of masters. Anyway, so one Christmas I asked my mother to go to one of the art professors in the department my father had organized in starting the Fine Arts Department at the University of Tennessee, either George Kress or one of the others. There were some younger, very interesting painters later, Buck Ewing was a very good painter, painting industrial sites, a little bit like Charles Sheeler. He was a terrific painter. And then, of course, at 5 years old, Jesse Benton, when we would go to dinner at the Bentons in Kansas City, they were some of our best friends. Rita Benton was half Italian. I think her Italian name was something like Picorino. And, or Scotty or something like that. She, great Italian cook. Jessie would take me over to her grandfather's studio, and it was her father's studio, not her grandfather. But I sort of thought of him in a grandfatherly way because he was much older. Although the best drinking buddy of my father would come down to our farm a lot and get drunk together, and he'd draw our Bill Ferdinand. And because of our farm, 10 miles from Marshall, Missouri, in Saline County, he got a farm in Kansas that Davy's wife Saskia grew up on, and a lot of the other kids in the on the Fort Hill commune, like I think one of them was named Atticus, and so Saskia grew up on that farm and went to State University of Kansas, studied art there and ceramics. She's a ceramic artist. Anyway, so I got started when my mother got everything I needed, and got the brushes and palette knives, linseed oil, turpentine, tubes of every important color. Got a list from one of the artists at UT of the colors I should have, and in those paint tubes they're all Grumbacher. They're better paints. I mean, I like to use now pigment powders such as vermilion, magenta, and some of the terra verde, some of the ochres that you get down in Roussillon, right from the earth around the town. And there's beautiful reds and very, very beautiful sort of beige ochres and yellowish tan colors, beiges, gorgeous, gorgeous colors, and deep browns. I like to mix those with a mortar and pestle to really powder the pigment powder so there are no heavy granules in there, and you mix it with on a palette with linseed oil. Anyway, I was very influenced by my freshman roommate who had studied with Pat Morgan at Andover and learned how to do non-objective painting. He used casein on huge canvases and did that in our dormitory room in Harvard Yard. I was very impressed by what he was doing. And John was then started doing metal sculpture. He gave me a lot of paintings when I was first married. Some shaped canvases of wonderful black and white, almost like a yin and yang, and also a greenish one with kind of inset of a square inset, which was set into a painting that was a little bit larger. It was rectangular, vertical, and this square was set right in the middle of it, a little to one side, off center, and it was backed up with a framework so that could be held there and contrast to everything around it. Remember, the inset was whitish. Maybe there was some stripes or something, but it would be in contrast or counterpoint with other things around that square, and as you completed to paint the whole rectangle, which is then it was a really tricky thing and looked beautiful on our wall in Chicago, where he would visit us often, taking a lot of photographs of me and Davy. There's some of the best baby photographs of Davy, some interesting photographs of me with a almost blackened head like a Negredo. You could hardly see my features. A very interesting photograph, however. And I think he took some of Anita, my wife, and Davy's mother at the same time. He was a great photographer. He took terrific photographs of the wedding of John Nelson to his wife. Her maiden name was Knickerbocker, Susie Knickerbocker, who had been at Radcliffe. And when John was in McLean, she'd visit him every day. I visited him almost every day at McLean's for a whole month. But she would go out there every day, and then finally they got married up in Nyack, New York. And Arabella Porter and Giorgio de Santillana were there, as well as his parents, Harry Nelson, who wrote the page, on the stock page of every morning of his wife, Geraldine Nelson, who became a great friend of Pat's and mine. And anyway, at John and Susie's wedding, John Douglas took absolutely magnificent painting. And other painters in that that were taught by Pat Morgan, his teacher, were the Princeton graduate, Carl Andre, and the Princeton graduate, I can't think of his name now, it'll come to me later. Thank you very much for your patience and listening to me. And the quite big question I've just sort of answered for myself just recently is, am I a petit maître or a grand maître? And to be a grand maître, it's not a matter of painting on huge canvases, but the intensity and the originality of the work you're doing. I think I might qualify as a grand maître. I've put up a lot of my paintings around just the room. Maybe you can see this new collage that I've set across the room there. In France, they call it a papier collé. These are inspired by George Braque, a show I saw at the Grand Palais. And there's a new one I've just done, which I put up right next to the one on the left. It was using a huge Chinese brush on wonderful paper, so I get great strokes like the Chinese calligraphy is that some of the Japanese, the great Japanese Zen artists like Basho. Anyway, you can see those across the room. Maybe it's not close. The screen is not close enough to photograph it. But I think I've said enough about the beginnings of my artistic career. I mean, I had shown 06 at the Galerie Vaillère on Rue de Coeur, right near Place Saint-Michel in Paris, around the corner from where the Cobra artists of Denmark, that whole movement was started. And one of my favorite artists, who was a very close friend of William Burroughs, was Byron Geisen. One of his first shows was also at the Galerie Vaillère, and Charlie Chevalier was a proprietor. These shows cost him in total annually about $110,000. I had a show there and also at the Gallery Leitner on Rue Daumont, which is the little tiny side street near Rue des Anglais in Place Maubert. The Rue Daumont runs into Rue Dante, like Dante, but pronounced Dante, not pronouncing the E. And then that goes over, and the left turn is Rue Galante, and then Rue Lagrange, and that runs over to Rue de la Bièvre, where Mitterrand lived. Always there was a policeman at the head of the street, and I never saw Mitterrand when he was in office over there. I mean, coming in and out of his house. There's a little park over there. As you go down that street toward the river, toward the Seine, and cross right over to Ile Saint Louis. Paris is, knowing Paris and all the little streets around Place Maubert and the up the hill toward Montagne Sainte-Geneviève, up the hill to going toward Mouffetard and the Sorbonne, the Rue des Écoles, where my favorite brasserie is, Le Balzar. Great restaurants all around where we lived. And at the Gallery Leitner, which I write about in Shooting Range, my show, and how the owner of the gallery thought that Nicholas had walked off by mistake with her purse. It was not. I had a photograph of her daughter standing with this woman's purse under her arm, so I could prove that it was not Nicholas who had taken her purse. And we had to go up to the police station, and in fact it was found, a purse was found by one of Nicholas's friends coming back from a restaurant he was working at, and turned into the police. It was a very, very difficult, horribly upsetting moment for Nicholas, and finally I worked it out and proved to the woman that he had not snitched her purse, but her daughter had it under her arm, because I had a photograph to prove it. I had taken a lot of pictures of my show with my digital camera. And anyway, so that's all. These shows did not sell many paintings. The show at the Galerie Valère was of my abstract drawings. And you see those collages are abstract. There's a huge landscape of the hill of dirt above our place, opposite our place, in Cambremer, and the ditches in the field coming down the hill, in which apple saplings had been planted, and there's our walnut tree in front, sort of against that brown, and silhouetted are against a pink side. I mean, my technique is to paint the sky first and then the trees, so that you don't have to paint the reddish pink of the sunset between the branches, which is very difficult. Just paint over the sky background and the silhouettes of the trees, and then in front of the house is this reddish bush, which you may be able to see because that red will project at this distance from our screen, our computer screen. That's all for tonight, for today. Bless you all for hanging there with me, hanging in there And watching this, it's a hard life being a painter in a country where people are very, very poor and a bad economic time, have no surplus money for buying paintings. But here they do respect an artist, and they respect the art of painting. And even though they may not know a lot about it, I don't feel that I'm treated with disrespect the way I am in the United States. So that's one reason I live here. I live here because France is an inspiration, and especially the landscapes around this house and our former house in Cambre, above in the Cambre route to Donald-Lescaville. I mean, I did many paintings of that, and such as this landscape of the hill and our apple orchard. That's all. I will get my son now to get me registered, get this, what I just said, registered on YouTube. Nicholas!